Hello and welcome to round 5 from the European Team Championships. I'm Simon Williams, Grandmaster Simon Williams, and my lovely co-host is
Fiona Steil-Antoni. And we first of all would like to apologize to you guys watching us for the delay in the start of the show. For the first time we experienced some technical problems here in Reykjavik.
It's sod's law really, because 30 seconds before we were going to go live.
It was my fault, maybe.
As soon as you walked in,
yeah.
Actually, the internet's been perfect the whole time, but as soon as Fiona walked into the door, all the internet went down. So I think you've got anti-internet skills somehow. So we're back and running now anyway, yeah. But we would like to say there's still some slight problems with the cameras of people who are playing, but we're working to fix that. But
Which is bad news for you, because you're going to have to look at us all the time. Very
bad news, yeah. You just have to put up with our ugly mugs. So there you go. But we will get them up and running very soon, so everything will be there eventually.
So today, round 5, we're crossing the halfway mark, and we have another big clash on the top board. The top pairing for today is the defending champions Azerbaijan against the sole leaders Russia.
That's right, and this is a massive pairing. I mean, I tipped Azerbaijan before the tournament as my tip to win this competition, but Russia, of course, are the top seed, so they have a great chance of winning this, and they're playing brilliantly so far, aren't they, in a lot of the games. So this is a massive game. And we'll try to bring up, obviously, the pairings very soon. Now, just like to mention very quickly, England, of course. It was a tough draw yesterday with Armenia. Pretty good draw. I mean, Armenia are very good.
Decisive results.
Yeah, very rare. Exciting. Yeah, very rare. And Mickey Adams, of course, beating Aronian. Yeah. So that was very good. And I'll just tell this story that my good friend Bjorn told me yesterday, just while we get things up and going. And Bjorn is an international master, Bjorn Torfinson, very good friend of ours, both of us, really nice guy. And his brother Bray is also a very strong player. But so hello Bray, if you're out there. But Bjorn is now a journalist. He seems to have about 10 different jobs over the course of his life. And you might see him walking behind us. There is Bjorn. There he goes. Firing at the screen. Hello, Bjorn. But Bjorn was writing this piece for one of the local papers in Reykjavik, and it made the front page today. And it was a very funny story. Apparently, Gudmundur, who's one of the Icelandic players, knows the Armenian team very well. And he picked up the Armenian team before the tournament started. They went to one of these super swimming pools, which they have in Iceland. So you got the sauna, you got the hot pool, you got the 50-meter pool, you've got this pool, that pool, that pool, this pool. You got all the pools. And they went to this pool, the Armenian team, with Gudmundur, and they were sitting there in a hot spa or whatever it was, the jacuzzi maybe, and they were all just enjoying themselves, chilling out. And Aronian was going on about how he's got a brilliant score against Icelandic players. He was going through all the list that he's beaten him, which, to be fair, Aronian's pretty much has that score against everyone anyway. But then Gudmundur pointed to the lifeguard. The lifeguard was sitting in the high chair, and he said, "You've lost to him twice." And unbelievably, the lifeguard is, how to pronounce his name? He's called Owl. Goodness, I'll find his name. Sorry, he's international master. Sorry, he's a really good friend, so I should know his name, but we are just warming up at the moment. But the lifeguard had actually beat him at least once, but maybe twice, which is really funny. So Aronian, one of the best players in the world, was just in the hot tub, and the lifeguard had a 2-0 score against him.
It's incredible. Which
I thought was really funny. So I know other stories like this as well. I mean, just very quickly, Stuart Conquest, a very good friend of ours again, who deals with the Gibraltar Congress, amazing tournament like this. He was in the days of adjudications where you had a position when computers weren't around and you have a look at it over the night and then you go back to the game the next day. He was in Russia and he was looking at this adjudication, rook and pawn ending. He wasn't exactly sure what to play. The cleaner came into the room. Some old lady, started brooming the floor, brooming the floor like this, and then looked at the position, pointed out this rook move, went, and walked out the room, and Stuart looked at this move she said, she suggested, and it was like the best move on the board. He ended up playing it in the game, I think, and it drew him the game.
Great.
So even in Russia, the cleaners can play good chess.
So we now have the pairings ready, and we're just going to go through them very quickly because we're already almost 1 hour into play, so we're going to go to the games very shortly. So as we mentioned, on the top board, the sole leaders, they already have a 2 points gap ahead of the second. So Russia against title defenders Azerbaijan. Then on board 2, Hungary against Ukraine. Board 3, Spain against France. And board 4, Serbia against Georgia. Germany against your English compatriots. And on board 6, Armenia against Italy. And we are also going to keep, as every day, an eye on world champion Magnus Carlsen, who is playing against Yannick Pelletier from Switzerland today. That's
an interesting pairing because Pelletier just recently beat Nakamura only a month ago or so in the Club Cup you played in. So in actual fact, that's a tough game for Magnus Carlsen. The reason I was wabbling on there a bit is just because things are a bit slow at the moment with the results, but we've got there now and everything's coming up.
So here are the pairings for today's round in the women's section. Just like in the open one, the Russian ladies are also the sole leaders here, and today they are playing France, a big match for France. They haven't done very well in the past years in the women's section, so it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. Then on board 2, Romania against Ukraine, who are coming back. We haven't really seen them on the top boards yet. Then on board 3, another big clash, Poland against Georgia. And then on board 4, Germany against the Netherlands. Board 5, Armenia against Serbia. And board 6, Hungary against Spain. So do you want to dive right into the top board clash between Russia and Azerbaijan?
Let's do it, yeah. We want to concentrate on, obviously, the big clashes, and this is a massive clash. So we have Rajabov with the white pieces, the game we're going to look at first of all, and he is playing against Grishchuk. So I think this is
who was resting for the first 3 rounds, which is quite incredible. But we had Peter Swidler in the show yesterday who was telling us he was a bit under the weather, and also the team was winning without him, so there was maybe not such a big need to bring him in.
Yeah, he's like a super sub.
Yeah.
And this is the board 2 game, I believe. Let me just check. I think it must be the board 2 game in the match on the top board, should we say. And obviously in these situations, I think there's more pressure on the players of the white pieces, obviously, because if you draw with black, good result. If you win with white, brilliant result. Okay, so the game...
If you win with black, even better.
If you win with black, then it's party time, yeah. I mean, as Peter Svidler very well, he won a very important game against Ivanchuk with the black pieces yesterday, and that game really propelled Russia in their victory over Ukraine. Okay, so Rajabov with white starts. There's a lot of Englishes today. I think people are getting tired. I think people are getting to halfway point, or maybe they've been out all night and they don't want to get any tactics. The English, everyone says it's a boring opening, but in actual fact, that's not true. I used to play the English all the time, and at least you don't get Berlin endings with the English. You always get the pieces remain on the board, and you get very interesting positions. Now that I've said that, this will probably be an incredibly boring game. Okay, so e6, trying to play d5, and now both players play in the center, so very symmetrical position here. I recently had this position as black against Nicholas Pert, who's a former world champion. He played a3, which is a useful little move, and it's really who blinks first here in the center. So someone has to do some move in the center of the board. And in this position, white now decides to change pawn structure by taking on d5. And now if pawn takes d5, we probably get an isolated pawn position at some point, which we discussed yesterday, something like this. But black's decided to go knight takes d5, aiming to exchange more pieces, bishop d3, and now white gets the isolated pawn. So it's really now clarified a little bit, and we can see what the battle is going to be about. This pawn is weak in the ending, but it can be a very strong base for an attack. And generally when you have the isolated pawn, as you said yesterday, Fiona, you're the side who wants to attack, especially with this bishop could be a great piece. So bishop e7, Do you know what I'd play here? Have a guess. I'd just play this without thinking. You know me pretty well. So what would I play here, Fiona? Setting up a little trick if black castles kingside. I don't know if the trick works. It doesn't work, but I'd play it anyway. Maybe. Harry.
Do you just play h4?
Ah, well done, Fiona. Harry 4. And I was trying to get a trick in here. Let's see if it works. Castles. And now I would go bishop takes h7, knight g5 check, king here, knight takes d5, and something like this. Okay, that's just how my weird brain works, but it doesn't work because I think queen f5. Obviously,
and then queen. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
was going to say queen h8 mate, and then I realised
so you could try this one.
First queen blunder of the day.
Yeah, I'm sure I will do lots more today. That'd be great though if you try to bluff it. You play that move, checkmate, and you look so confident. I've actually seen someone do that before in a game, in a quick play game. They're an international master, and they went checkmate, and the guy just took his queen like that with a bishop, and he's like, oh, I got the shakes. But instead, much more natural. Both sides have castled. Do we have any more moves here? No, standard position. And you mentioned a very good plan here the other day, didn't you, Fiona, with your bishop and queen?
Yeah. It doesn't work here immediately because knight b4 might be annoying, but maybe we can start with a3 at some point.
Sure.
And then retreat the bishop either to b1 or c2.
Yep.
And put the queen to d3 and get an attack going like this.
And that would be checkmate.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a very standard idea in these positions, and something that, I mean, they're much easier to play for white, these positions, I always find. Black has to be much more accurate. Other ideas, rook e1, knight to e5, queen e2 to e4. There's so many attacking ideas you can play, and actually h4 is a very common idea as well in this type of structure, even to give you the g5 square. Anyway, that's the board one. Board two. Sorry.
So let's go to board one, where Swidler plays Mamedyarov. Swidler, who joined us on the show yesterday.
We'll just see if we can get this game up. Yes, we can.
Oh,
good.
Wow, loads of moves.
Oh, dear.
Okay, which is good news for us because we can just sort of skip the opening.
Yes. I mean, we've got so many games to look at, haven't we? So,
yeah. Let's maybe very quickly run
last
through.
couple of moves or something.
Okay.
Shall we do that? So
we can very quickly maybe run through the opening so we know.
Okay, let's go. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So Peter Svidler's on exceptional form this year, isn't he? I mean, he got to the final of the World Cup, which is so hard to do, and he just seems to be playing absolutely brilliantly. Very, very strong player.
Yep.
Hello, Mr. John Naylor. Okay, so we now have quite a standard Spanish, but here things take a little change to the normal. Well, I'd say this is very normal as well.
Yeah.
It's been played by Korchnoi against
Karpov. Is it
Karpov.
an open Spanish, unless I'm talking?
I don't know names, really. I just don't know names. I struggle to know my own name occasionally, so don't ask me about chess names. But I think, I know positions, and I know that this was fought in one of the World Championship matches when Karpov became world champion. Karpov was white, and I believe he played this variation against Korchnoi. I think there was a famous game in this, so Karpov-Korchnoi, and they hated each other, those two guys. They really didn't like each other. And I could tell you some very funny stories about Korchnoi, but I will look at a bit of chess first before I start telling any Korchnoi stories. Let's jump forwards now. So this is the standard position, and I'm assuming a lot of this is theory. Again, if I remember correctly, Kariana had this with the white pieces against Mamedyarov very recently. This position is very similar to a pawn on d3. And now this is a brave move from black, and Mamedyarov is a brave player, isn't he?
We mentioned earlier in our show, on one of the previous days, Mamedyarov is a very aggressive tactical player. So I'm not surprised to see him play g5 here.
Yes, I mean this is very brave though, because you're opening up your king. Generally a rule is you don't push pawns in front of your king unless there's a good reason. So let's see what the reason is. Is this correct? Because now, okay, b4 played, so you're attacking the knight. So okay, knight c4, and now the bishop simply retreats to c1. And now I'm guessing the idea of this plan, d2. Wow, this is crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. because now white sacrifices the exchange. Bishop takes f5, and this is going to be a lot stronger now that black has weakened his king.
Yep.
Black has to grab material. They're playing, it'd be nice to see the clock times, but again, we're just loading our technical things that are sleeping a bit today. No fault except for the internet. And now queen d5, and here e6 from Svidler. Now, instinctively, I'm going to say great compensation for white. And if I was Azerbaijani at this moment in time, I'd be quite concerned about this game. We saw how well prepared Peter Svidler was when he came into the room yesterday, and I'm imagined that most of this is
when, as he was saying that he was just watching movies and reading books before the game.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, he prepared this like...
No, he's mentioned yesterday, just to clarify, he was playing Ivanchuk, and it's impossible to play, to prepare against Ivanchuk because he plays everything. Yeah. So he will probably have done quite a bit of preparation.
Definitely. So... Yeah, and I don't know, do you believe him when he says, you know, how he prepared? He just put a movie on, he read a book.
I think
so.
I think he famously in the World Cup, I don't know how many books and movies he got through. Like famously, the World Cup lasts for a month or something like that. It was a lot. He does a lot of reading. He watches a lot of movie series. So yeah, maybe that's the way forward.
Maybe just forget about preparing. So I like this approach.
Or don't do too. I think maybe too much preparation can sometimes be more harmful.
Certainly. I actually really agree with that, because if you do too much preparation, this can tire you out quite massively for the game. So you've got to save your energy for the game. But also, you don't want to lose in like 10 moves, do you, or something as well. But I mean, this position here, I mean, it just looks like. I mean, this is a very interesting game. So maybe we can just spend another second or two on the position. It looks so dangerous.
Okay, so obviously black can't take on e6 because loses a queen on the spot.
Yeah.
So what does black do? Can I play a move like knight d6, something like that?
Sure. I was thinking queen e5 as well is interesting, but knight d6, I'd imagine I want to open up the black king, so I take on f7. Now, I think if you take this pawn, you could get in serious trouble. You can't go king takes pawn. The same reason, you lose your queen. If you go knight takes pawn, well, I'd probably just
bishop e6.
take the rook, bishop, and completely winning.
Yeah, maybe knight e6 was just stupid.
Well, you can try king f8, but it looks very
but then the
ropey.
h7 pawn is hanging already.
And I've got knight e6 check.
No, knight d6 doesn't
Tough
work.
position, though. It's very dangerous.
So you were suggesting queen e5.
I want to get the queens off. When I'm being attacked, I really just want to swap these guys off. Whoa. So queen e5 maybe is a possibility here. But again, even if I just go queen d1 in this type of position with ideas of queen h5, you can take on d4 here. So queen e5 maybe is worth considering for black. And I'm just wondering what white can play here. Lots of attacking ideas here.
Yep.
I think if queen d1 here, then maybe rook takes d4 is a good option because the bishop hangs here. Looks like that should work.
Yep.
So queen e5 looks maybe like a good way for Mamajorov to play, unless I'm missing some tactic. But this is going to be very interesting. Okay.
Should we update boards 3 and 4, and then we go to world champion Magnus Carlsen?
Sounds good to me.
So on board 3 we have Nepomniachtchi playing against Arkady Naiditsch.
And Arkady Naiditsch had this beautiful checkmate yesterday, didn't he? It was probably one of the most beautiful checkmates. Well, certainly the most beautiful checkmate I've seen in this tournament. And potentially for quite a while actually. And it was quite funny that Hari Krishna.
Helped us figure it out.
The Indian number 2. We were sitting here puzzled like a pair of patzers, and Hari Krishna actually Skyped you, and she told us where the checkmate was, which is just quite amusing.
Funny, yeah.
Okay, well this is a standard position. Now the question is, another English opening I should say this is developed as. Black has a good centre. Naiditsch has been playing very risky chess in this competition, and again we see him playing a very risky manner, and I like this style from Naiditsch. I think he's a very brave player, because he is basically offering a pawn on b7, so another interesting position. And if white doesn't take that pawn, there are lots of ideas like e4 and d4 here, with the bishop taking attacking the queen in certain variations. And you also have this. You have this very nice centre. So the $1,000,000 question.
And he has taken, actually.
I think you have to take this pawn because otherwise you could just be worse. So Nepomniachtchi.
Nepomniachtchi.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. How do you say it?
Nepomniachtchi.
Ian.
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 Jan, actually, in Russian.
Ian in English, though. I like Ian. Doesn't sound very Russian, does it?
No.
Hello, Ian. You know.
I don't think he'd even realize you're talking to him.
No, probably not. So probably good for him. I don't know. I mean, this has got to be compensation here.
Yeah.
Let's say I just let's castle, because if I attack your queen, you check me. It's a bit annoying. I'll castle. Let's just castle. Try this one, shall we? With the idea maybe going rook to 38 a bit later on. Some compensation, yeah. This is going to be.
I think it's going to be a very exciting match here today between Russia and Azerbaijan. You know, it's like I mentioned before. Russia has a 2-point lead already over everyone else in the tournament, so it's very crucial Azerbaijan don't lose today. A draw might still be okay for them, but Russia have already played Ukraine. Azerbaijan, they are the 3rd seed, so if they beat the top 2 seeds, it's gonna look very, very good for Russia already.
Okay.
Just 5 rounds in.
Can I just ask you a question? I mean, I'm assuming it's done on match results, not on board results. The score,
I think,
so it has to be on match results. Because one year they had it on board results, which seemed very strange.
Yeah.
So it's most important to win the match.
It doesn't matter if you win 4-0 or 2.5.
Sure. Let's go to the last board then. And this is Yakovenko. With the black pieces against Safari. Sounds like he's on a safari. I like that name.
And we saw this earlier, it just looks very, very equal.
It's a bore fest, let's be honest.
White is maybe a bit more active, but I'm not sure that's really gonna...
It just looks like a complete bore fest to me. I mean, like, it's symmetrical position. Black will happily put his bishop on e6. Black's develop, white's developed, so they can shake hands when they get to move 30 and have a draw.
40, I think.
40,
I believe
so
it's 40 move rule.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Yakovenko decided to play on a bit because he's a higher rated player and he's very good technically, so he might just see if white makes some mistakes. But I mean, I think it's clear from this we can see that what they wanted, they basically they had this game plan before the match, and they said, look, you're probably the most outrated. If you draw white, that's fine. Just go for solidity. What was that word I was trying to say? I don't know.
Okay, so we'll leave this for now, but it's shaping up very nicely and we'll come back to it in a moment. We're now going to go to the world champion Magnus Carlsen, who hasn't had a great start to the tournament. He's only played 2 games. He lost the first one against Aronian, and yesterday he was held to a draw by Hansen from Denmark. Today he's playing against Yannick Pelletier from Switzerland.
And I'm trying to find the game now, so just bear with me, and we will bring that up very shortly. And Pelletier, like we mentioned before, a very solid and good player. This looks like a Magnus position to me, Day.
So another English opening.
Another English, yeah. I remember Bronstein, who I knew a little bit. Great player, or maybe one of the strongest players never to become world champion. He would pick the opening that he played on certain circumstances. So I remember he said on New Year's Day he played knight to f3 on move 1, and a friend of mine asked him why, and he said, well, I think I should start a new day with a knight move, because a new year, should I say, with a knight move, because I like the knights, you know, I don't want to move a pawn, I want to move my favourite piece. And then I think, like, some people when they're in England play the English opening, you know, if they're in France, play the French defence.
Is there an Icelandic opening?
There is Icelandic gambits you can play. Yeah, Icelandic gambit, which is some weird, crazy gambit kind of line. So anyway, let's go through the moves quickly. And Magnus with the white pieces. Pelletier picking a very solid setup here, which I think will suit both players. Pelletier is, I would say, normally with the black pieces at least, very, very solid player. And we all know that Carlsen is happy in quiet positions where he can play. He's really, I think the player we can really say is most similar to Magnus Carlsen is Karpov. So.
And we have our producers telling us that Peter Heine Nielsen, who is the second of Magnus Carlsen, he posted a diagram of the French opening on Facebook in a sign of solidarity with the French people after the horrible events from last Friday. So it's quite a nice touch.
Nice touch, yeah.
A nice chess way of showing the solidarity.
Yeah. And actually we saw the French player Romain Edouard played a French defence yesterday and win a very important game.
No, he lost.
Lost a very important game to lose the match.
No, to draw the match.
Well, I was close, wasn't I? How many things did I get wrong there? I got the colour wrong, I got the person wrong, I got the match score wrong, and I got everything wrong. Don't listen to me today.
Someone hasn't been doing their homework.
Oh, come on. I always do at least 5 hours prep for these shows. Thank you very much. I'm a pro, as you know. Yes. Okay, so here, anyway, on with the game. White, small advantage, and white is probing the pawn on d6. So this is one weakness that white can gang up on and aim to attack. Black, let's be honest, very solid position, and I think white's slightly better. It's going to suit Magnus. It's a grinding game, or another word for this is quite boring game at the moment, I'd say.
You said this once before, and then things heated up within a heartbeat.
Within a heartbeat. That's when Magnus lost to Aronian. But I mean, it's a matter of personal preference. Some people might find this tantalising stuff, you know.
You know, I think it's a good approach from Magnus. There's no point for him to take crazy risks as white. You know, he is the better player in this match.
Now, let's just look at one more game in this match, because someone has mentioned that Tari, who's the young prodigy, well, they've got loads of them now, Norway, but he's a young prodigy, is maybe playing a miniature already.
Okay. And there was a tweet earlier from Tarjei. I think I saw a tweet from Tarjei saying that Tari is now the 4th highest rated player in Norway on the live list, behind Magnus, John Ludvig Hammer, and Simon Akterstein after his great performance here. So
very good.
Very impressive, yeah. And
let's just have a look at this game. So this is an opening I know very well. Bishop b4, the Rogozin variation, I guess named after a geezer called Rogozin, maybe, that's what I'm guessing, is very popular nowadays. I actually had this talking to Korchnoi, against Korchnoi with the white pieces, and I played bishop g5 and lost a very interesting game. But this is when I was quite young, and you know what he said after the game? I analysed with Korchnoi. He was very nice to me. He's not normally nice to people. No. He said I reminded him of a young Macau Tao. My best ever compliment, who he beat on numerous occasions, but it was a very nice. He was very nice to me, and he was very witty, Korchnoi. Very funny guy. Very funny guy. He spent a lot of his time, when he was about to resign, thinking of insults to give to his opponent when he resigned. You heard of this? He was famous for his insults, but you know, if you knew Korchnoi, you know he was just messing about. But we can maybe try to think, hear some of his insults if we can get them up. But there was loads. I mean, like you know, how could I lose to such a weak player as you? This kind of thing. You know.
I saw the. So have you seen the video where he beat one of the Polgar sisters? I believe it was Susan, I'm not totally sure. Yes. And he said to her after the game, "This is the very first and the very last time you will beat me."
It's brilliant. I have to say, if you haven't seen that video, you should Google that video. It's, I think, not Judith Polgar.
I think it was Susan.
Susan Polgar, yeah, against Korchnoi. Just Google this, and Korchnoi loses.
I maybe said it in a funny way, but he wasn't joking at all.
No,
he wasn't happy either.
Yeah, he said, "The last time I ever lose to a woman." It's great, brilliant. So,
not that we encourage sexism, of course.
Of course not. No, no, we wouldn't dare do that. Okay, and right. So we now had black playing a very risky light, and I played this as white. And the main move here is something like knight bd7, and black tries to charge with c5, stuff like this. And this has become very popular now. The move here, g5. It's actually played by Nigel Short in his match against Gary Kasparov for the World Championships. But to be honest, this move is kind of known to be a bit too risky nowadays, and actually rather dubious. I mean, again, it's like we mentioned before in the Mamedyarov game, you're moving pawns around your king, you're weakening your king. The whole point, I mean, it might look quite dangerous for white because now black comes in with knight to e4, but in actual fact, I mean, black could easily overextend himself. So knight d2 played, and well, you can take on c3. I had this against Jonathan Parker in English Grandmaster, and I believe it's this position, but just like something simple, I think like rook c1 is very good for white. If you take on d4, I might even have queen a4 check and some tactic like this. And if you retreat your bishop, I'd take on c7. And if you take here, you just get a massive attack here. Sorry, we've already gone through that one. If you take on, it's just very dangerous. So in actual fact, after knight d2, black has now captured the bishop on g3. The pawn structure is lovely for white with this open h-file, very pleasant position, I'd say. c6, and now a very principled move here. The black king looks more open than the white king because it hasn't got as many pieces near it. So white aims to open up the center, and also his knight is a bit better placed, so this makes a lot of sense. His knight does jump in, bishop to e6, trying to get some pieces out, and now a very, very principled move again. It's either going to be very good or bad, but I like this move, d5. And this is a cool move. Just blowing the center open again, giving the d4 square available for the queen. Yeah. Bishop takes c3, b takes c3. So, okay, so we've lost the pawn, but queen d4. So there you go, bang. And that's very interesting position. And people are saying this could be a very quick game, as people have mentioned. And what do you do as black here? Black could just be very bad opening choice by black.
Black can't castle, I guess, because of knight f6. And also the h6 pawn is just hanging now. That's just mates. Okay. Yeah. So what does black do?
Very good question. I mean, do you have to go?
The thing is, yeah, you can't really go rook h7 defending the h6 pawn because of the fork on f6. Absolutely
disgusting position for black. Black is going to.
Can you do something stupid? No, I was going to play a stupid move like king d7.
I was thinking king d7 because in desperate situations you need desperate things, and I don't think this is. I mean, I think the position is so bad that you probably have to play something stupid looking like king d7. Now, this is a demonstration of an aggressive idea backfiring because black is simply not in a developed enough position to start aggressive play. Now, king d7 here, well, I mean, you can play this, but